Australia's greatest invader was not an army but one of the cutest animals on earth. By the time people realized what was happening, it was already far too late. This is the unbelievable story of how rabbits nearly conquered an entire continent. It all began in 1859 when Thomas Austin released 24 European rabbits for hunting. Austin believed introducing rabbits would make Australia feel more like home. Nobody expected rabbits to reproduce with unbelievable speed. A healthy pair of rabbits can produce dozens of offspring in just 1 year. Within decades, rabbits had spread across huge areas of Australia. The growing rabbit population quickly began destroying crops and farmland. Rabbits also ate the grass needed by sheep and cattle. Many native species suddenly found themselves competing for food. Their constant burrowing damaged soil and accelerated erosion across the landscape. By the early 20th century, the rabbit population had exploded into the hundreds of millions. The fluffy invaders seemed completely unstoppable. People desperately searched for ways to stop the invasion. Australia decided to build one of the longest fences ever constructed. The rabbit-proof fence stretched for more than 3,000 kilometers. The rabbits simply found ways around many sections of the barrier. The invasion continued despite enormous effort and expense. The battle against Australia's most adorable enemy was only just beginning. The world's longest rabbit fence could slow the invasion, but it could not stop it. Australia needed a completely different solution. Researchers began searching for a biological way to control the exploding population. They believed the disease could do what fences never could. In 1950, Australia introduced the myxoma virus to wild rabbit populations. The disease spread rapidly because rabbits had almost no natural immunity. The rabbit population fell dramatically within just a few years. For a while, it looked like Australia had finally won. Then evolution entered the story. The rabbits that survived passed their resistance to future generations. Before long, rabbit numbers started rising all over Australia. The fluffy invaders were making an incredible comeback. People around the world watched Australia's unusual battle with amazement. No single method proved powerful enough to eliminate the invasion. Their extraordinary breeding rate remained their greatest advantage. The environmental damage continued affecting Australia's unique ecosystems. Researchers once again searched for another biological solution. This time they introduced rabbit hemorrhagic disease, also known as RHD. The new virus reduced rabbit populations across many regions. Even this victory would prove to be only temporary because evolution never stops. Once again, the strongest rabbits survived and passed their resistance to future generations. The rabbit population recovered because evolution rewarded the survivors. A release of just 24 rabbits had transformed an entire continent. Rabbits continued competing with native wildlife for food and habitat. Their feeding and burrowing also accelerated soil erosion in many regions. Managing rabbits became a permanent part of Australian farming. Modern technology now helps track rabbit populations more effectively than ever before. Australia now relies on a combination of methods instead of a single solution. Protecting native ecosystems requires constant effort because rabbits remain widespread. Australia's rabbit problem became one of the world's most famous examples of an invasive species. Scientists still study this invasion to understand how ecosystems respond to introduced animals. History sometimes changes because of decisions that seem harmless at the time. Nobody could have predicted how enormous the consequences would become. One small action created consequences that lasted for generations. The battle between conservation and invasive species continues even today. Solving environmental problems often requires science, patience, and long-term planning. More than a century later, rabbits are still part of Australia's story. Perhaps the greatest lesson is that nature can amplify even the smallest human decisions. One tiny rabbit helped create one of the biggest ecological disasters in modern history. What other unbelievable moments from history should we explore next?